The High Council of the Rav had made precisely 3 mistakes in their 1,000-year history. The first involved underestimating a fungal bloom. The second cost them an entire moon. The third, well, that one involved humans. I should know. I was there when it all went wrong. My name is Krell, and I served as diplomatic observer for the Varath Collective when we first encountered the species from Sol 3. Soft, pink creatures with backward-jointed knees and an alarming lack of natural armor. They smiled at us. Those humans showed us their teeth like friendly predators who'd forgotten they were predators at all. We thought we understood them. By the 7 suns we were wrong. It started on Praxis Station, a neutral trading hub orbiting a dying red giant. The humans had sent a delegation to negotiate mining rights in the Kellis Belt. Standard procedure. Boring, really. I'd observed 17 similar negotiations that cycle alone, each one ending with handshakes, signed documents and ceremonial drinks that made my second stomach ache for days. The human ambassador was a woman named Victoria Cross, tall even for their kind, with dark skin and eyes that seemed to calculate probabilities faster than our quantum processors. She wore simple clothes, no ceremonial armor, no threat displays, just fabric and confidence. Across the table sat Commander Thrace of the Kalos Mining Consortium. A Varath like myself, though considerably more aggressive in his business practices, he had scales the color of burnished copper and a reputation for crushing competitors beneath regulations and legal maneuvering. The terms are simple. Thrace clicked, his mandibles spreading in what passed for a Varath smile. We control extraction. You provide labor. 60-40 split in our favor. Victoria's expression didn't change. Not a twitch. Not a blink. She simply folded her hands on the table, those 5-fingered appendages interlacing with practiced calm. Counter-proposal, she said, her voice carrying that peculiar musical quality human speech possessed. 50-50 partnership, joint oversight, mutual profit sharing. We bring the extraction technology. You bring local expertise. Thrace's secondary arms twitched, sign of amusement among my people. Your technology, he leaned forward. We've been mining asteroids since your species was painting on cave walls, Ambassador Cross. What could you possibly offer that we don't already possess? Victoria smiled. Not the friendly kind. This one held edges. Efficiency. Human efficiency. We've reviewed your current operations. You're extracting at roughly 43% optimal capacity. We can triple that within 6 months. The silence that followed tasted like ozone before a lightning strike. Thrace's scales rippled, color shifting toward angry crimson. Around the negotiation chamber his advisors began chittering in alarm frequencies. Impossible, Thrace hissed. Our methods are tried, tested, perfected over centuries. You're barely out of your planetary nursery. And you dare suggest— I don't suggest, Victoria interrupted, and there was something in her voice now, something cold and sharp as vacuum. I state facts. Your equipment is outdated, your safety protocols waste time, your personnel rotation schedule creates constant inefficiency gaps. We can fix all of it. I watched Thrace's color deepen, his breath coming faster through his sprinkles. Pride is a dangerous thing among the Varath. We value it above almost everything else. And this human, this soft creature from a gravity-cursed world, had just challenged it directly. You want to know what I think? Thrace stood, all 4 arms spreading wide in a dominance display. I think your species needs to learn its place in the galactic hierarchy. I think you've grown too comfortable too quickly. Perhaps you need a reminder that the universe doesn't revolve around Earth. Victoria stood as well, and despite being smaller than Thrace, despite lacking any visible weapons or armor, she somehow seemed to fill more space. Commander, she said quietly, I'd advise against that line of reasoning. Would you? Thrace laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. And what will you do if I reject your proposal entirely? Cry? Complain to your United Nations? Send us a strongly worded letter? Her jaw tightened. Just a fraction. Just enough for someone paying attention to notice. I'll give you one more chance to reconsider, she said. Take the partnership. Make the deal fair. Everyone wins. Thrace's advisors were signaling him frantically now, trying to get his attention, but he ignored them. Fatal mistake number 1. Or what, human? What happens if I say no? Victoria picked up her datapad, tapped it twice, and the holographic display between them shifted. Suddenly we were looking at schematics, defense grids, financial records, communication protocols. Every system in the Kalos Mining Consortium's operation laid bare like a dissected specimen. We've been in your networks for 6 weeks, she said conversationally, as if discussing the weather. We know everything. Production schedules, security rotations, financial vulnerabilities, every single detail of every single operation you run, not just here, everywhere. The room went silent, dead silent. The kind of silence that happens when everyone suddenly realizes they're standing at the edge of a cliff they didn't know existed. Thrace's scales flushed pale green, fear color. That's impossible. Our security is inadequate, Victoria finished. Like I said, inefficient. We could have crashed your entire operation 3 weeks ago. We could have sold your trade secrets to your 17 primary competitors. We could have transferred every credit you owned to charitable organizations supporting orphaned Kreshnian larvae. She leaned forward and her smile was gone now, replaced by something far more terrifying. But we didn't. Because we're not monsters, Commander. We're business people. We wanted a fair deal. We still want a fair deal. The question is whether you're smart enough to take it. Thrace looked at his advisors. They looked at me, I looked at Victoria Cross and realized something that would haunt me through everything that followed. Humans don't show you their weapons because they're proud. They hide them because they're practical. They smile because they've already won and they're giving you a chance to surrender before you realize you're fighting. Thrace, to his credit, had some intelligence left beneath his wounded pride. 50-50, he said quietly. Joint oversight. Mutual profit. Smart choice, Victoria said, extending her hand. They shook on it. The deal was made. Crisis averted. Except it wasn't. Not really. Because word of what happened in that negotiation room spread, throughout Praxis Station, throughout the Kellis Belt, throughout the entire sector. Humans had infiltrated Varath military-grade security. Humans had held corporate secrets hostage. Humans had won without firing a shot. And certain people, certain very stupid people, decided that couldn't stand. 3 weeks later, the Free Kalos Liberation Front attacked the human mining colony on Kalos 7. They called themselves freedom fighters. Said they were protecting Veralis sovereignty against human infiltration. Claimed they were drawing a line against Earth's expansion. They killed 43 people. Men, women, children. Burned habitat domes. Destroyed life support. Left bodies floating in vacuum. The attack lasted 14 minutes. The humans defending the colony never stood a chance. Most were scientists, engineers, families, not soldiers. I watched the footage later, trying to understand, trying to find some logic in the massacre. All I saw was senseless violence, terrorism dressed up as patriotism. The Varath High Council condemned the attack immediately, called it barbaric, demanded the perpetrators face justice. But the damage was done. Human blood had been spilled on Varath-claimed territory. Human children had died screaming in the cold dark of space. And humanity went very, very quiet. For 72 hours we heard nothing from Earth. No statements, no demands, no threats. Just silence. I should have recognized that silence for what it was. The sound of rage so profound it required time to process, time to plan, time to aim. When the response came, it didn't come from politicians or diplomats. It came from the human military. And it came like a natural disaster wearing a smile. Admiral James Cortez appeared on every broadcast channel in Varath space simultaneously. Human hackers, the same ones who'd penetrated Kalos security, had seized our entire communications infrastructure without anyone noticing. Cortez was older than Victoria Cross, gray-haired and scarred, with eyes that had seen things I couldn't imagine. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of deliberate calm, masking something volcanic underneath. People of the Varath Collective, he said, 43 human citizens were murdered 3 days ago on Kellis 7. This attack was not an act of war. It was terrorism. It was murder. And it will not stand. He paused, letting that sink in. We know who planned the attack. We know who funded it. We know who carried it out. We have evidence. We have confessions. We have everything we need to bring these individuals to justice. Another pause, longer this time. We are extending one final courtesy, a last chance for your government to handle this internally. You have 24 hours to arrest and try the terrorist responsible. If you fail to do so, if you shield them, if you protect them in any way, his expression hardened into something that made my survival instinct scream, then we will come for them ourselves. And we will not ask permission. We will not negotiate. We will not stop until every single person responsible for those deaths faces justice, human justice, on human terms. The broadcast ended. The countdown began, and the Vivarath High Council, in their wisdom, decided to call the humans bluff. They declared that no foreign military would operate in Virath space. They said the terrorists would face Virath justice, Virath courts, Virath punishment. They said human threats were unacceptable and would not be tolerated. They said a lot of things. None of it mattered. 24 hours and 17 minutes after Cortez's ultimatum expired, the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace directly above Kelos Prime, the Virath homeworld, center of our civilization, heart of our empire. 67 warships materialized in perfect formation, their weapons already locked on every military installation, every defense satellite, every planetary shield generator we possessed. And then Admiral Cortez broadcast one more message, this one directly to the High Council chambers. "We asked nicely," he said simply. "You refused. Now we stop asking." What happened next redefined what the galaxy understood about human warfare. But that's a story for another telling. For now, all you need to know is this. We thought we understood human anger. We thought it was like ours, hot, quick, burning bright and fading fast. We were wrong. Human rage doesn't burn hot. It burns cold. It burns calculated. It burns with the precision of a surgical laser and the inevitability of entropy itself. And when it burns, nothing, absolutely nothing, stands in its way. The thing about human warfare that nobody tells you, that no intelligence briefing can prepare you for, is the silence. When the Virath go to war, we roar. We beat drums. We paint our scales in battle colors and announce our intentions to the universe. War is theater for us, a performance of strength and dominance. Humans just get to work. I was still on Praxis Station when the fleet arrived at Kelos Prime. Still watching the diplomatic channels dissolve into chaos. Still trying to understand what was happening. The station's observation deck had become an impromptu war room, filled with representatives from a dozen species, all of us glued to the screens showing real-time footage from our homeworld. 67 human warships hung in orbit like birds of prey, perfectly still, perfectly positioned. No dramatic maneuvers, no threatening gestures. They simply existed, and their existence was threat enough. Admiral Cortez's face appeared on every screen again. He looked tired now, worn down by something deeper than physical exhaustion. He looked like a man who'd made a decision he couldn't unmake, and was following through regardless of cost. "High Council of Virath," he said, and his voice held no anger, no triumph, nothing but cold professional certainty. "You are harboring 17 individuals responsible for the Kelos 7 massacre. We have transmitted their names, locations, and evidence of their crime. You have 1 hour to surrender them to our custody. After that we will extract them ourselves." Council Speaker Varn appeared on the counter broadcast, his scales flushed deep purple with rage. I'd known Varn for 40 cycles. Good administrator. Terrible strategist. Pride had always been his weakness. "You dare threaten the Virath homeworld." Varn's mandibles clicked furiously. "We have planetary defenses that have stood for millennia. We have defense fleets. We have allies. You are 67 ships against an entire civilization. Leave now, or face the consequences." Cortez actually smiled. It was the saddest smile I'd ever seen on a human face. "Speaker Varn," he said quietly, "those defenses stopped functioning 11 minutes ago. Your defense satellites are offline. Your planetary shields are disabled. Your communication networks answer to us. Your allies received detailed documentation of what your terrorists did, along with polite requests to stay out of this. Most agreed. The rest we convinced." He leaned forward, and I saw something in his eyes that made my survival glands flood my system with panic hormones. "You have 1 hour. After that we're coming down, and I promise you, you really don't want us to come down." The broadcast ended. Varn immediately ordered the defense fleet to engage. 42 Virath warships, pride of our military, scrambled from orbital stations and lunar bases. I watched them accelerate toward the human formation, weapons charging, commanders shouting battle cries across open channels. The humans didn't fire a single shot. Instead, every Virathi ship simultaneously lost power. Engines died, weapons went dark, life support switched to emergency backups. 42 warships became 42 drifting pieces of inert metal, their crews trapped inside, completely helpless. "What did they do?" someone whispered beside me. A Kreshnian diplomat, her sensory stalks trembling with shock. "Electronic warfare," another voice answered.
Human voice.
I turned to see a young man in civilian clothes. watching the screens with an expression of resigned sorrow. Probably quantum disruption pulses, maybe nanite infiltration of shipboard systems. Could be both. Humans got really good at disabling enemy assets without destroying them. Learned it the hard way during the resource wars back home. You're human, I said, stating the obvious because my brain couldn't process anything more complex. Engineering contractor, he confirmed. Got stuck here when the quarantine went up, and trying to warn people. He shook his head. Nobody listens. Everyone thinks humanity is still some backwater species playing at civilization. Nobody remembers we spent 10,000 years perfecting new and creative ways to kill each other before we ever left our planet. On screen the hour countdown continued. 53 minutes. 52. 51. The High Council was arguing. I could see it in the feeds from the council chambers. Varn wanted to fight, half the council backed him. The other half, the smarter half, was screaming for surrender. For reason. For sanity. At the 30-minute mark, 3 council members broke ranks and personally arrested 2 of the terrorists themselves, dragged them to a shuttle and launched toward the human fleet. Small act of defiance against Varn's stubbornness. Smaller act of survival. Cortez accepted the prisoners. 2 down. 15 to go. 20 minutes remaining. The Free Kilos Liberation Front, realizing what was about to happen, released a statement claiming responsibility for the attack, calling themselves heroes, promising to fight the human invaders to the last breath. They were hiding in a bunker 3 kilometers beneath the surface of Kalos Prime. Military-grade facility, shielded against orbital bombardment, protected by 200 meters of reinforced titanium and composite armor. Theoretically impregnable. 15 minutes. 10. 5. The countdown hit 0. Cortez appeared one final time. So be it, he said. Then he gave the order. I'll never forget. Deploy the Ravens. I didn't know what Ravens were. None of us did. We found out quickly. 12 small objects detached from the human flagship. They looked almost insignificant, barely larger than personal shuttles. They descended toward Kalos Prime in perfect formation, and planetary defense systems that should have been reactivated by now, that should have opened fire, stayed silent and dark. The Ravens didn't head for the bunker entrance. They didn't need to. They landed in a circle exactly 3 kilometers in diameter, perfectly positioned above the terrorist hideout. And then they started drilling, not with conventional equipment, with something else, something that made the ground itself scream. Molecular disassembly beams, the human contractor explained in a hollow voice. They didn't drill through the rock. They convinced the rock to stop being rock, to become component atoms and drift away on planetary winds. It took 4 minutes. 4 minutes for the Ravens to bore through 3 kilometers of planetary crust like it was paper. 4 minutes for the terrorists to realize nowhere was safe. Nowhere was beyond human reach. When the hole was complete, the Ravens withdrew. Precision munitions dropped into the shaft. Small ones. Surgical ones. Designed to stun, not kill. 10 minutes later, human Marines in drop armor retrieved 17 unconscious terrorists from a bunker that no longer existed, brought them up to the surface, loaded them onto shuttles, delivered them to the flagship. Not one human fired a lethal shot. Not one Verath civilian was harmed. The Marines moved through Kalos Prime's capital like ghosts, and when they left, the only evidence they'd been there at all was a perfectly circular hole in the ground and 17 empty cells in a shattered bunker. The efficiency was terrifying. The restraint was worse. Admiral Cortez broadcast one final message before the fleet departed. People of Verath, he said, and he looked ancient now, burdened by the weight of what he'd done. This was justice, not war. This was precision, not destruction. We came for 17 murderers. We took 17 murderers. Nothing more, nothing less. He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice carried warning that made my scales lock with primal fear. But understand this. Understand it completely. 43 humans died on Kalos 7. 43 innocent people who trusted that galactic civilization would protect them. That trust was broken. That protection failed. And humanity remembers. Another pause. Longer. Heavier. We could have burned your planet. We could have shattered your moons. We could have turned Kalos Prime into a tomb that would stand as a monument to our grief. We have the weapons. We have the capacity. We have done worse to ourselves during our own history. His expression hardened into something carved from stone and sorrow. We chose mercy today. We chose restraint. We chose to believe that your civilization can learn from this. can grow beyond the hatred that created those terrorists, can become something better. Then came the part that still haunts my dreams. But if this happens again, if any human, anywhere dies because some species decided we're acceptable targets, if anyone mistakes our restraint for weakness or our mercy for fear, he leaned close to the camera, and I saw the depths of human rage laid bare. Not hot anger, cold fury, the kind that plans, the kind that waits, the kind that never ever forgives. We won't ask nicely, we won't negotiate, we won't give warnings or ultimatums, we will simply come, and we will burn your worlds, your stations, your fleets, everything you are and everything you've ever built. We will reduce it to ash and vapor and scattered atoms, and then we will move to the next target, and the next, until there's nothing left but the memory of what happens when humanity stops being patient. Silence. Absolute silence across every channel. This is your only warning, Cortez finished. The only one you'll ever receive. We pray you're wise enough to heed it. The human fleet left Kelos Prime orbit 13 minutes later. They vanished into hyperspace as quickly as they'd arrived, leaving behind a civilization in shock, a government in crisis, and a galaxy that suddenly understood what humans really were. Not the friendly merchants who smiled at negotiating tables. Not the eager newcomers who wanted partnership and cooperation. Those were real, yes. But beneath them, always beneath them, was something older. Something forged in the fires of a planetary history so violent, so brutal, so unforgiving that it had created a species who understood warfare better than anyone else in known space. Humans had spent 10,000 years learning to kill, learning to destroy, learning to wage war with tools ranging from sharpened rocks to planet-cracking weapons. They'd fought themselves across continents in centuries, perfecting the art of organized violence until it became second nature. And then they'd stopped, put down the weapons, built a civilization based on cooperation and law, reached for the stars with open hands and peaceful intentions. But they never forgot, never lost the knowledge, never truly put away the capacity for destruction. They just chose not to use it. Until someone gave them a reason. The terrorist went on trial at the International Criminal Court on Earth. Fair trial, legal representation, every right and protection human law afforded. They were convicted on 43 counts of murder, sentenced to life imprisonment without possibility of parole. They're still there, still alive, still breathing, serving their time in facilities far, far humane than they deserved. Some called it justice, others called it mercy. I call it a message. Humans don't need to kill you to defeat you. They just need you to understand what they're capable of, what they're choosing not to do. Every single day. The Varathai Council fell 3 weeks after the incident. New leadership took over. First official act was a formal apology to humanity and reparations to the families of the Kelos 7 victims. Second act was comprehensive anti-terrorism legislation. Third was requesting human assistance in upgrading our security systems. We learned our lesson. Most of the galaxy did, but sometimes, late at night, I still think about those ravens. About how easily they carved through 3 kilometers of solid rock, about the casual precision of it all, about what it meant. Humans had weapons that could do that. Weapons they carried across the galaxy. Weapons they deployed without hesitation when pushed. But they didn't burn Kelos Prime, didn't destroy our fleet, didn't take revenge beyond what justice required. They could have. They should have. By any standard of galactic warfare. We'd harbored the terrorists who killed their people. We'd refused their reasonable demands. We'd forced their hand. Any other species would have made an example of us, turned our homeworld into a warning. Humans just took their criminals and left, made their point without firing a lethal shot, demonstrated absolute superiority without exercising it fully. That restraint, that mercy, terrifies me more than any weapon ever could, because it means humans understand something the rest of us don't. That true power isn't about what you destroy, it's about what you choose not to destroy. What you could burn but don't. What you spare when you could annihilate. Humans don't want to burn the galaxy. They want to live in it, build in it, share it with the rest of us. But they can burn it, at any moment, for any reason they deem sufficient, and now everyone knows it. I see Victoria Cross occasionally on the diplomatic circuits. She's an ambassador still, negotiating deals, making partnerships, building bridges between species. She smiles that same friendly smile, shakes hands with the same easy confidence. But I can't forget what I learned, can't unsee the truth beneath the surface. Humans are patient until they're not. They're peaceful until you give them a reason to stop. They'll negotiate, compromise, find common ground, build consensus, right up until you cross the line. Right up until you hurt someone they promised to protect. Then they become something else entirely. Something ancient and terrible. Something that remembers 10,000 years of warfare and can apply every brutal lesson learned. The Kalos incident taught the galaxy a lesson we should have learned earlier. Should have understood from studying human history. Should have recognized in the cautious way they approached every negotiation, the careful way they phrased every agreement. Humans didn't come to the stars to conquer. They came to escape their own violent past, to build something better among the stars than they'd managed on their homeworld. But they brought their history with them, carried it in their DNA, their culture, their collective memory. And when necessary, when pushed beyond patience, they remember how to be what they used to be. Predators, survivors, warriors who understand that sometimes, just sometimes, the only way to preserve peace is to demonstrate your absolute capacity for war. They didn't want to burn, but they could. They can. And that makes all the difference.
Tell me which sci-fi twist shocked you the most in today's story. You are watching Sci-Fi HFY content. My channel is Sci-Fi HFY.